Good morning. It is what is the date? It's the 18th of May. We've already gone through half of the month. It's the Small Business Support Group live here on Facebook, on YouTube, and now on podcast. How exciting is that? That's all down to Grant's fault. There he is. So give me a bit more work to do. That's fantastic. Mark's in the house with his flags. It's your fault completely.
Hey,
I wouldn't have gone down the podcast route. We're going to change the structure slightly because now we're doing podcasts. It's fine. It's all good. If you do want to visit any of the podcasts, they are hopefully within about 48 hours. The shows will be up or on your personal podcast platforms. So if you've got iTunes or you listen to it on Spotify or anything like that, you should be able to get the Small Business Support Group podcast on there. You don't get our pretty faces, though. You just get our glorious voices. Great. Excellent. All right, Mark.
I was always built for radio.
Is that a relief?
Yeah, he's got a face for radio. Perfect. Someone's just put a message up. Lost track of days. Oh, lost track of days ago. Okay, fair enough. Good morning, David. Thanks for watching. So today we're just going to run down quickly what we're talking about. Maz, what you were talking about today on the show?
So I was going to talk about how the tube service has been resumed by 70%, and also how Alok Sharma, I think his name is, they spoke about a vaccine that they're developing.
Excellent, brilliant. Okay, we'll be talking about that in a minute. And Grant, what are you bringing to the table today?
I can talk about my little adventure on Friday, my experience in the wide world. So that should be a bit of fun.
That's going to be exciting. Are you also mentioning London Wheel as well, briefly?
I think I would like to do at the end a bit of the news behind the news, just talk about some of the censorship that's going on YouTube.
I've got a couple of things to do on that as well. You've got a slight delay, Grant, just to let you know. But you may be. I think you got a wobbly Wi-Fi. It's all cool there. It's only a second.
I have.
Mark, what did you want to talk about, Mark?
I want to continue with the whole, government's decision with furlough to extend it to October, and what that really means to employees and businesses after July the 31st. Because as we know, it's going to go down to 50%, and whether they still have a job at the end of it.
Okay, brilliant. I'm just talking about stuff which is not on topic, so that will be basically a parallel universe that's going backwards and sex dolls at football grounds. I'll leave it there. Right. Okay. So we're going to go over to.
Okay.
Yeah, don't panic. It's all right. It's all in good taste. Maz, over to you. Oh, no, I've just cut her off. There we go. That's better.
Hello, and good morning.
You know how it feels now, Maz.
Thanks, Matt. Hello, and good morning to everybody. Good morning to our listeners. And we are in the 9th week of lockdown, and we've made it. So I was reading the news this morning, and one of the headlines was that commuters are returning to work and they will face major changes on the railway services because the tube services are being returned to 70% of capacity. And I think it should have maybe been 100% to make it easier to maintain social distancing. You know, I was reading that travelers will be required to wear face coverings during their journey. You now need to reserve a seat in advance if you have to travel or you face not being able to board. Also, there will be no food served on trains, and passengers will be discouraged from eating their own food and drink on board. Operators will now also have the power to close busy platforms and use social media to warn passengers to stay away. I mean, can't believe that it's taken coronavirus to force the rail companies to make sure you get a seat for your vastly overpriced ticket. You know, when I've done the commute from Euston back to where I am in Birmingham, and I've paid a hefty price for my ticket. Sometimes I've stood throughout the whole journey. I mean, all of these arrangements, and yet we have the Mayor Sadiq Khan, who's allowed to reintroduce the congestion charge and indeed increasing it, which will undoubtedly push more people towards, the tube in London. Surely you'd think that they'd have some sort of coordinated approach. I mean, so many mixed messages. For example, the face coverings. I know that Grant sent us some pictures and he's going to share his journey where, there was a picture that he sent where it said face coverings should be used while traveling. I mean, maybe they should have rephrased that and said face coverings have to be worn before you get on the train. I mean, 1 minute the government is saying face masks actually don't work. Then we're told, we've changed our minds. Yes, they do. And then they're saying, well, actually, do you know what? You can make your own from a bit of clothing because that works. And then they're saying, no, actually, only medical grade face masks work. Now we've got go to work, but try not to use public transport, use your own vehicle. And if you use your own vehicle and you're in London, actually, we've now bumped up the congestion charge to £15 a day. But the car parks are still closed. So maybe, use public transport. So I suppose then, Mr. Johnson, you're a great leader. And as you can see, Mr. Sadiq Khan is working really hard for the London transport. Then moving over to the other side, we've got the business secretary, Alok Sharma, who has announced that Britain will get first access to a coronavirus vaccine being developed by the Oxford University with a pharmaceutical giant called, I think it's called AstraZeneca, who are poised to make 30 million for the UK by September. If, he said, it works. But Mr. Sharma has warned that there are no certainties regarding the vaccine and has said that it could actually prove not to be effective. He's pledged an additional £84 million to accelerate the development of the vaccine, on top of a previous 47 million pot of cash, so that mass production can start as soon as possible if it's proved to be effective. So an untested vaccine, which is not proven to work and which may well have dangerous side effects, gets $250 million of our money thrown at it. I mean, are these people determined to bankrupt the country or what? Doesn't it all sound a bit premature? Doesn't there have to be extensive testing on animals and humans to eliminate risk of harmful side effects? And how are they going to make 100 million of vaccines that work in a couple of months' time when they don't even know how this virus works, how it spreads, how much it mutates? Hundreds of scientific groups, universities, pharma giants all over the world are in agreement that if, and that's an if in capital letters, there will be a vaccine, it will only be ready to go into production at the earliest at the end of this year. How much we all want a cure available ASAP. We all do. But I'm afraid, that this is another optimistic and reckless claim of the UK government. I mean, if you watched the conference yesterday and you watched Alok Sharma, he ignored question after question, as he does. It's like they're making it up as they go along. It was only a few weeks ago that they were saying we actually need 18 months minimum. So what changed overnight? This entire virus, it's raising a lot of suspicious eyebrows. I think it's time that we ended this circus. We got the teachers, actually, no, sorry, the kids back to school, and we all got back to work. I don't know, over to you guys.
Well, I'm talking about the Grant. It's really confusing what's happening here because Grant's frozen on one and he's on another one, so we can get two Grants. That is weird. There he goes. I'm picking up on the masks because obviously Grant was wearing a mask on Friday when he went down to London. Where did you get the mask from, Grant? Was that something you bought online? Or was
my dad got a few. I don't know where he got them from. But he's got a few in his garage. If anybody's got, they're tenner each. Yeah.
Yeah, don't inflate them too much. Well, I've ordered some.
Have you?
Yeah,
so he's got a few. I've got to say, it was absolutely horrible wearing a mask. It's really hard to breathe. It's not. I mean, I need if you got one with like probably ventilators on it, but this was just a piece of material went over your nose, and then it was really hard to breathe.
We know how masks
and
work.
and to be honest, I was sat on that tube with nobody else on it. There were some guys in the other tube next to me when I first got on, and they weren't wearing masks. They were just like young lads. There was one other person on it for about 5 minutes who did have a mask on, but I didn't bother wearing it after that. Everybody else left the tube. I literally was struggling to breathe.
Well, I mean,
it made me feel really sorry for blooming,
nurses
doctors and nurses having to wear them all day long. I mean, bloody hell.
They may have a slightly better quality one, do you think? Or do you think that was
Maybe,
was that one of those PP? Is it PPF or something? What's the? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Mate. I didn't even look. I just took it out and put it on. I didn't think about it.
I think it's essential that we have these, because even if it just reduces it by 20%, 30%, just do it. Just wear one. Nothing wrong. You're going to look a bit of an idiot, but everybody's going to look an idiot.
Can we get
Mark,
back?
what do you think?
Can we get back to the crux of it all? Testing.
Here we go.
Testing. They reckon 80%.
Always for.
So why sitting there worrying about it?
Yeah, breaking up slightly there, Mark.
He's got a point, hasn't he? I mean, for all I know, I had it. I mean, Andy's convinced I did have it.
Well, I think you did.
I was ill with all the symptoms in late Feb.
Well, they're saying that people had cases of it back in December.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So one thing that did make me think about it was that when I was when I was wearing the face mask on Friday, my chest is still not 100%, having been ill in February. So I've still got a tight chest now. I can still feel it. I saw something on the radio saying that it's, some people, it leaves them with scarring on the lungs, having had COVID-19.
Yeah.
Which would kind of suggest that that's what I'm still feeling now, with the slight, it's just, you just know you're not 100% when you take a deep breath.
Yeah.
You're perfectly, fine in every other respect. I've stopped coughing now and all that kind of stuff. But it does make you wonder. So like Mark said, if I could have a test to say, yeah, you've got it, you've had it, and you've still got the antibodies, and I'd be like, and there must be millions of people that are in the same boat as me that potentially have had it.
So would that equate to the money spending on AstraZeneca, the drug company Maz, instead of spending that money on them, spend it on the testing, and then we can actually because I saw on the news in the Sun, and I know it was the Sun, but it was on the news feed on the phone.
Is it the sport?
No, not quite. They were rioting or at least demonstrating in London in the parks, saying this is a fake. It's a hoax. It's you trying to inject your unwanted, tests on us, and to track us. It's against our civil liberties. Now you can take it that far, but the fact is, why are they pushing on something like Matt says that the rest of the World Health Organization have said there was going to be nothing to the latter end of this year, if not the beginning of next, and we're now and University of Central London have got the answer, and we should have it by June. We all want the answer, but don't give us false hopes.
I think there's a lot of inconsistent messages, and we were saying this because Alok Sharma is actually the business secretary for Britain, and they're going by this vaccine. And as I said, the pharmaceutical giant is AstraZeneca, and he's pledged 84 million when they've already got the 47 million pounds. And what he also said yesterday when I was listening to him, he said it could prove not to be effective. So actually, to already give the 47 million, then the 84 million pounds on top was something that actually could not be effective. It's just, I think it's disgraceful, to be quite honest with you. Again, with the masks, mixed messages. Yes, they work. Yes, they don't. Use a sock. Use your vest. I mean, seriously, I think masks should be available everywhere. If they're needed on tubes, then have them at the tube stations. If people are not wearing them, hand them out and say you've got to wear them before you get on the tube. It's like Grant said, some are wearing them, some aren't. Yes, there's messages there. as you're going down or coming up the escalators. But seriously, you know, the government needs to be consistent. It's like it's a circus now.
Well, it is. I mean, it's, you know, because we keep doing stuff slowly and we're late with the with certain things. So we're looking at other countries all the time to see how they're doing it. So we've looked at everybody else doing the schools and they've gone, we're doing the schools. Brilliant. Well, why aren't we following them on the masks? Because virtually all the other countries have said, if you go out, put a mask on. Why aren't we? What is the problem with saying it? I don't understand what the problem is. It takes London.
Is it because there's not enough of them?
Well, yes, I suppose there is that side of things, but any mask will do it. Any mask will reduce the chance of infection, and that's where it should be laid. Not that it will stop it altogether, but it will reduce it, and that's where it needs. But I've ordered, as I said, I've ordered some, and so I'll wear them. I'll go out and wear them. I don't care.
You're wearing it on the show, though.
I can wear it on the show. That's not a problem.
I mean, me personally, it's like what Grant said. I feel really, you know, I do go out and I'm happy to wear gloves, but wearing a mask, I feel really uncomfortable, claustrophobic. But I know that if it needs be, I will do it. But then again, you know, it's about common sense.
If it's going to help us relax the lockdown and get Britain moving, as Mark keeps saying, then wear a frigging mask.
Well, look, when I go from my couch to 5K, I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm going to cough all over people. No, joking. No.
Oh, what a wonderful person you are.
No,
anyway, over to Mark. Let's see what he's got to say and how many people he can upset.
I do turn away, and what they're saying to us is we need to be fresh air. We need to obviously get the fresh air into our lungs. Social distancing. It's okay to go to the park, you know, and you can meet someone outside of your family 2 meters. That is what they're saying, but they're also saying that we need to use common sense. So that's what it's about here, Matt. Is if you're going to go in a shop, watch this. And if you're going to go on the tube, you need a mask. But let's get back to the first issue. Is something that I feel that businesses still need to be looking at, individuals still need to be looking at, because end of July, you cannot bury your head in the sand and say, look, you know, I've still got a job. I'm still going to be able to go to work once the government stop supporting 80% of your wage. From August the 1st, 7.5 million people will be asked, you know, by their employers to contribute half of their, you know, furlough wage, and it'll be reduced down to 60%. I can honestly say, from my point of view, number of employers have already got plans to get rid of them, to get rid of people they want to, because they have no other choice but to do that. Now, the simple fact is, if you're in business right now, you have to make tough decisions. If you're an employee, you need to be asking your employer what tough decisions are going to be faced to them on the 31st of July, and whether you still have a job. Get yourself ready. Don't bury your head in the sand, because the economy and the UK cannot afford to keep on paying your wages. They're not paying mine, they're paying yours. So get ready to get to back to work or find another job.
I mean, I haven't spoke to anybody who's been furloughed who's been worried about losing their job yet. Is that?
But that's
something that's sort of in the background.
No, yeah. I've got I won't obviously name the company, but I've got a friend of mine who's a project manager of an electrician company. They've got something like 40 engineers on furlough, and they are busy. They're getting busy. They've got to test a lot of buildings to get them back, but they've already made a list of people that they're looking to obviously not return under the 2-year rule of you know, your employment contract, because they've worked it out. They don't necessarily need it. And 1 or 2 people in that organisation, and I dare say across the UK in other businesses, organisations, have said, no, I'm not coming to work. No, you can't force me to do an extra day's admin work. I'm on furlough. Yeah, I get it. But they're also saying, I'm a small business. You take that attitude with me, you're already on the blacklist to go. Another friend working, you know, long distance lorry driver, was doing a warehouse job for a while. He's been told he's been made redundant. What my point is here, businesses will have to make tough decisions, yes, but don't leave it to your employer and get to the end of July and say, fantastic, I've had a great time. Get ahead of the game. Use this opportunity to have a meaningful, engaged conversation with your employer to say, look, no, there's no issue here. I know things are going to happen, but if you can't keep me on, if there is a chance of me losing my job, can you let me know? And obviously, the government are covering it till end of July. So I've got that time to prepare my CV, get myself ready, get myself work ready.
No, that's, yeah, it is. I don't know. I've got no answer or comment on that really, because it's, I mean, being self-employed is different, isn't it? But it's.
Can I chip in? Because
yeah, mate, go on.
Yeah, so I think what we've got to remember here, we're in completely, you know, how many times have we heard unprecedented times? We really are. The government stepped in with the furlough, using, you know, a word furlough. Who knew what that was before a few months ago? You know, it's like a completely made up word. Yeah. And I'm sure they did that just so they didn't end up with any kind of legal wrangles down the line, because furlough's got a specific definition that they didn't adhere to. So I'm sure that's why furlough's been made up. But let's face it, the idea with furlough was that if you were going to make redundancies, then instead of making somebody redundant, you can furlough them. So these people effectively would have already lost their job. That was the principle behind it. Now, unless something's changed, and we all know it hasn't in most cases between now and then, when the furlough scheme finishes, they're effectively redundant, aren't they? That's what's going to happen. So there is going to be mass redundancies. Now, the only variable on that is that what companies will have to consider is, if people have been in contract and they've been working for them more than 2 years, certainly in the UK, then there's going to be redundancy payouts, which is always a big consideration for businesses, because that, you know, if a business is struggling and then they've got a load of redundancy payouts to pay out, then they're going to be in trouble. If they're already struggling to pay out a lot of redundancies, they've got staff that have been with them for a while. The other consideration is that there's a thing where if the business goes under, then redundancies can be claimed from the government. There's a scheme for that. It's been ages since I've had to look into that, but I know Andy Moore would be a good one to kind of talk about that. So there's all sorts of considerations for both the government and these businesses. Now, so I think anybody that is not anticipating mass redundancies coming up is going to be quite naive, because we all know there's certain sectors that have been absolutely decimated by this. You know, if you think about the travel sector, airlines, holiday industry, leisure industry, gyms, restaurants, hotels, you know, huge businesses in these industries that have been completely decimated and may not come back for, you know, could be years before they make a full comeback. The redundancies are going to be huge in those industries, whether we like it or not.
That's some really good points you've raised on the furlough. And as I say, I don't understand it. So it wasn't I don't employ anybody in that way. So it was, I've never really looked into it. As you just said,
well, what the government have done is they've given people a stay of execution to see if there's an opportunity for them to carry on working. That's what the furlough is. It's basically they've given those people their salary, even albeit 80%, in a period where they would have just been made redundant. That was the purpose of it. Now, I'm sure there's plenty of businesses that took advantage of it, and perhaps they didn't need to furlough people, but they did. They took advantage of it. You know, I haven't furloughed any of my staff. You know, there's an argument to say that I could have furloughed some of my staff and taken on lower priced freelancers to do the work, and then just give them the job back at the end and save myself some money. But I'm sure there's plenty of businesses, big businesses, that have done that kind of thing. So, for example, question came up yesterday. I had, by the way, I should have put this on my agenda at the beginning, the most amazing Sunday lunch yesterday. It was just absolutely awesome. Ordered it through the app from the Orange Tree down the road. Yeah. But there's a business, for example, you know, that have now got a thing where they're doing 3 days a week. They are doing fantastic takeaway food. Now their staff, they had to go through this process. They can't furlough them because they've still got to work, but they're only working part-time. So the staff are going to take a drop in salary, or and this was the consideration. I wonder whether restaurants have got this consideration, is do they furlough everybody and then just take on temporary staff to manage the takeaway service, and then when everything comes back to some kind of normality, they decide whether they make redundancies or whether they take back on the original staff and get rid of the temporary staff in the meantime. So there's all sorts of considerations for businesses that are having a go, that aren't trading fully, like restaurants, and businesses that are trying to diversify, where they need some kind of staff, they need something to keep the wheels turning. But if that means it's their existing staff, they lose the furlough, and the existing staff are on a reduced salary. I spoke to a friend of mine at the weekend who's actually working full time, but he's only on half salary. He's being paid half salary, and because the business has still got to operate, but it's operating on a limited amount of revenue. It's not earning anywhere near as much, and therefore the staff are all on 50% salary because they can't be furloughed.
Yeah, it's I think it's going to be it is going to be crunch time over the next few weeks, isn't it? That's the thing. It's it is scary.
It really will be.
It
really will be.
But as ever, there's also lots of opportunities that's going to be out there as well. I think Mark was
got
about
a good
to say
one
that.
for you there, Matt.
Go on, then, mate.
Before he jumps in, I'm gonna kind of steal his thunder here. If you are made redundant and you've got a large sum of money sitting in your bank account through redundancy, and you want to set up your own business, come and have a chat with me.
Or Mark.
Ever the opportunity.
Or me. Well, no, it's right. I mean, if people feel that they, there is a lot of people who are advertising franchises and stuff at the moment. There's lots of it out there, because these type of situations, when people make redundant, they get some money and they have that thought for a second, oh, shall I go self-employed? Shall I work for myself? And it is great. It's flaming hard work, but it's really rewarding. It's not an easy option, but it's great though.
Matt, Grant, Mark, I was going to say, and invest in your public speaking skills.
Oh, you're just slipping that in there. Yeah, okay.
If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you need public speaking skills.
How you come across, because we all know what words equate to. Body language is 55% of what you say.
Is that it? Okay, I'm brilliant. She was horrible earlier. Can I just say, Mark? Can I just stop you a minute?
Yeah.
The Business Growth Network, which I was on this morning. You were watching, were you, Grant? And Maz hosted it, and she obviously just took control of the situation. And there's 20 people on there, and she was cutting them off 45 seconds, bang. And it was the funniest thing, because I was speaking to Maz about it. She was letting people speak, and there was a lady on there who was eloquent. She wrote everything down, and she was obviously frightened of going over the 45 seconds. And she went over by a couple of seconds. So she did a lovely little speech and said, and don't forget, you can get me at. And then she cut her off before she could say where she could get her from.
And then Mark sent me a message. He goes, whoa, you're lading sugar, you are.
You've got to let people say where they're from. Sorry. So anyway, it was a great morning. It was a great morning.
Thank you for the constructive feedback, Matt.
Not too quick on the fingers.
That was my real point there. There's an opportunity for the entrepreneurs that are born doing their own business, but those are made from situations like this. So it's a great chance for you to get yourself out there running your own business, doing your own thing, and living the dream if you've always thought that. If you're sitting right now and thinking to yourself, actually, I don't want to go back to work, be honest with your employer. So it makes it easier for them to make decisions to get rid of you. Now, just going on Matt's point with Maz, the feedback I had, though, was that you were brilliant. You held the room. You really did. You held that meeting.
Thank you.
And that's what it's about. So if anyone wants to come to a Business Growth Network for free, you used to get
what about me?
Money. Yeah, Matt, you complain all the time. Grant, he always says, I never get any leads. Everyone said after he did his 10-minute presentation, which Maz had to prompt him about, I forgot to do one. Yes, you are bound to do it. Everyone afterwards was like, how much? I want to speak to Matt.
Well, and on Friday when I spoke to Matt, he goes, Maz, I hate doing these presentations. Do you really want me to do one?
Yeah, I don't like them. I do them, but I really don't enjoy them.
You were amazing. You were so good this morning. You were charismatic. You had energy. Whoa. You were like, wow.
There you go. It was good, and it was very fruitful. So thank you very much for inviting me on this morning. Right, we are running out of time, so we've got some bits and pieces to get through here because we do want to do news behind the news. So let's just get the banner up. So Grant, do you want to talk about your little trip to London? And I know you briefly touched on it and how it was, but
yeah, I mean, I think
where's Banner?
Just to say really that it was quite weird, the trip to London. I must say, I left from the NEC station in Birmingham, just outside Birmingham, which obviously the NEC is normally absolutely thriving around there. It's usually really, really busy. I was the only one on the platform. It was really, really weird. It was like watching a film. It felt like I was in like 28 Days Later or something like that. Got on the train. It was virtually empty. There you go. And
it looks like he's in Prodigy.
You know. Yeah. Just to say, Maz, you mentioned about the trains and about the food and stuff on the trains. The food cart was open. So, but what they did was they basically, the carriage leading up to the bit where you buy the food, and there was somebody manning the food counter, was all cordoned off. So I guess that was just in case there was a queue or anything like that. Maybe there was. Bear in mind, I travelled at about 20 past 10. I caught the train, so it was after rush hour. So and it was on what was Virgin. I forget what it is now. The Pendolino, and I went to Euston. Euston was really deserted. You probably saw the pictures. I've done a little video actually and put it onto Instagram just to show people what it's like. But then once I got outside, the actual roads were quite busy. Not as busy as normal, but it was like getting back to normality. So clearly people are avoiding public transport, massively. And then the roads are fairly busy. And yeah, it was on the way home. It was Friday night, mid-afternoon. That journey back from London on the road on the M40 back up to the Midlands is usually really, really busy, and it was quite quiet. So everybody is adhering to, I can say from experience, having travelled out the wider world, people are adhering to the lockdown. They do seem to be being sensible. There were probably about 50% of people were wearing face masks, I would say. And it was. I felt quite. What's the word? I felt safe, and I felt quite encouraged that people are paying attention.
That's good. No, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Actually, I'm glad to hear that. Just had a quick comment come in. Darren, our friendly Darren with the Segways. He says you can have a Segway tour franchise if you want one. So if anybody's interested in that.
After the lockdown, we're going to have to go and see Darren. And
we're going to have to be on this. Oh, we are, definitely.
Darren needs to be email and say, we've all got complimentary Segways for the day. Like, yeah, come on, Darren.
I think we can sort that out. We can sort that out, definitely. So did you want to quickly talk about London Real, Grant? Because obviously you that was the first thing you wanted to talk about this morning, being banned from YouTube and destroying a business. Has he frozen?
Yeah, I think he has.
He has frozen.
I love it. I love it where he freezes. Oh, you've gone as well. Is it just us, please? Oh, no. It's just me and you. Where? Okay.
Now I'm moving.
You're moving. Okay. Maybe we can't talk about that then. I don't know what he was talking about. So I'll talk about when no, we don't. But anyway, so let me just talk about what I'm going to talk about, which is, first of all, sex dolls at football grounds. It's oh no, hang on a minute. Grant's in again. It's doubled up again. Look. So I'm going to talk about sex dolls at football grounds, and you're probably thinking, why are you talking about that, Matt? Well, the football season restarted in Japan to empty stadiums, and they came up with a great idea to put sex dolls into the audience, and sit them around the ground, so it looked like there was people there.
Oh my God.
I don't know what. I don't know what.
Face masks is actually a good idea, aren't they? They cover up the gaping mouth.
It is. No, we've lost Mazzy. I don't know if we've offended her. I'm not sure. But right, the next thing we were talking about is, and this is serious. Now, I read this morning, and I can't believe we haven't talked about it before. But NASA, and this is directly from them, they have found particles of a parallel universe. Now, this is okay. All right, I can understand that. But when I was reading the article to find out how they found particles, they've got this massive project. Let me just take that banner down so you can see. They've got this massive project in the Arctic that's they're flying balloons, technical balloons, quite high up into the stratosphere, because it's very clean air and they can be very high sensitive equipment, and it's picking. I mean, look at that. That looks like a science fiction movie, and it's picking up particles. These particles, I know it's nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I'm just impressed. They've been looking for the Big Bang particles from when it started, and they found those, which go into our planet, and they go through the planet. But now they've picked up particles that are coming out of the planet, and they're saying this is a parallel universe that's running in reverse, which is even more mind-bending. And I don't know if you've heard about this, Grant. I know you know about parallel universes. You've talked about it with them before, but
I've not. I thought you were being sarcastic when you sent me that message.
No, this is what it is. I
wow.
thought you were, yeah, and it's
no, I've not.
You Google it.
That
Google
sounds
it.
Awesome.
And because of the lockdown, they found this information on the 8th of April, and they've only just started releasing the data about it. And there is actually in the New Scientist online system that they've got an article about it on the 8th of April. But they found some sort of parallel universe that I don't know how they understand how it's reverse and going backwards in time. So is that starting from where we end?
That's starting to mess with my head already.
And going backwards to the dinosaurs? That is just mind-blowing. So if anything else you're going to do today, Google parallel universe NASA.
I'll have a look.
And have a look at that. That is about
that
it.
That one's classic.
I think Maz a connection dropped. I don't think it was because what we were talking about. So that is it for today. We're back tomorrow. We've got a couple of special guests this week as well, which we'll talk about later in the week. Don't forget, you can get the podcast of the show on your favorite podcast portal, and also at Anchor, our friends at Anchor FM, which is who are supporting our podcast. Thanks for Grant for putting me in, making me think about doing that. So it takes an hour a day. It's fine. So thanks.
It's all my fault.
It's all your fault, and I'm so busy today. Anyway, Mark, thanks a lot. Grant, we'll see you tomorrow.
Take care.
Brilliant. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.